It's no longer about the transaction. It's about the transition. It's about helping the human being.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and today we have Katherine Ambrose from the Wichita, Kansas market. How you doing, Katherine?
Fantastic. Thank you, Remington, for having me.
You're out there with one of my faves, Sam Luciorini, grinding out there in the Wichita market. Katherine, you are a Star Power star, which we'll get into what that means because it's been gone for a while, but it's coming back in a big way. But most people probably know you from the two PBS shows, Ageless Enthusiasm and Empowering Seniors. Today, we're going to talk about what exactly that looks like, a similar show to when we had Isabel Guarino on, talking about a very big segment of real estate that goes unnoticed, which is seniors. So again, thanks for being on. What makes you so passionate about working with seniors?
Well, I worked really hard in real estate for a lot of years. I got licensed I got licensed when I was about 21 years of age, and my husband got transferred. And so that was kind of an easy out. And I thought those realtors are kind of mean. And I thought maybe I'll get it back in when I'm older and it'll go better for me. And I thought about lots of different other careers, but I did come back to real estate in 1996. We came back to Wichita, Kansas. I became a real estate agent, and my career really took off. So much so that in 1998, when my husband was going to be transferred yet again, I said, honey, I'm tired of moving. Our kids are settled. I've got a fun career going. Why don't you try real estate with me? Why don't we just see if that would work? So we tried that as an experiment, and we became a husband and wife team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so ever since, but you found your niche working with seniors. How quickly did that develop?
I'm sorry. I forgot the question. So we really, that was scary to give up insurance, give up a steady paycheck to do real estate together. Really, really scary. So we started looking for ways that we could ensure our success, because back in 1996, 1998, we didn't have all the training that we have now in all of our offices. And that just didn't exist. So back then I would tell people that if you want to be successful in real estate, you need to buy airplane tickets. And we bought airplane tickets to go to the Star Power conferences. Howard Britton, who was just a genius. And I think he might have developed the CRS designation, but I know he was deeply entrenched as a CRS instructor. And then he started this organization called Star Power. Star Power changed our lives. We really kind of raised our children on Star Power too, and the empowering language that they taught us. And we taught our children to say, it's our pleasure. That had the biggest impact on our lives in and outside of real estate.
Well, can we kind of pause there? Because I think a lot of people know Star Power as the convention. I know a little bit about it because a lot of our agents who have been featured here in Indy have talked about also being Star Power stars. David Brenton being one of them, you probably know. And so, but I don't think all the listeners necessarily know exactly what goes into it. So, what is the organization, and what does it include?
Well, it's just amazing because so think about back then, it was the top of the top agents from markets all across the country getting together and masterminding together. And Howard Britton would joke and say, do you want to see what a plagiarist looks like? Look around. And we would all laugh because we would take back the best ideas that we heard, and then we would go home and implement and look like geniuses. So we had a free moving truck right off the get-go, and we knew how we were going to address that conversation with our broker, where we were going to park it. We knew every single thing. We knew how to make our moving truck free. In fact, we knew how to make our moving truck a profit center. We learned so much there. It was incredible. And so we would go get great ideas and bring them back home and implement them. And so we were just into survival at first. And then it was like, how can we get ourselves to 300 units a year? I had that in my mind. I really wanted to get to 300 units. So I was focused on volume, focused on transactions, and I wanted to be a star power star. That was my ultimate dream. That's what I knew.
What did that look like? Who were the stars? What did you do? Was it a volume you had to do, or was it?
It was volume, but just cool people. Just really cool people that were so inspiring. But to me, it was like getting to a certain number of transactions and really having systems, that systems are the solution. This way predates Keller Williams Realty and, all these companies that we know today that have all this great training. And a lot of that training came from different organizations like Star Power, and it got kind of churned in and mixed into all the company trainings that we have now.
I was going to say, because now a lot of the things that you're mentioning, I think a lot of brokerages pride themselves in, Keller Williams being one of them, their training and their mega camp and all the national events they do with the training books and all that. Did Howard Brinton ever want to become a brokerage? Was he ever trying to make like a national brokerage?
No, it was not about being a brokerage. It was about helping each other. In fact, it was a little confusing to me when some of my Star Power friends, some of the Star Power stars, started mentioning training at Keller Williams. And I attended some Keller Williams training, and I thought, gee, this feels like Star Power, but it's a real estate company. And so I ended up founding Keller Williams Realty in Wichita, Kansas, 2 different offices that are still here today. We started those back in starting in 2003. So I've done a lot of things, like a mega team with my husband, and then all 3 of our children have worked with us at different times. Today, our daughter works with us. We started 2 real estate brokerages 20 years ago. We've done
How's
a
that
lot.
Working with your kids? I know working with the spouse, we've had a lot of people on that do that, but working with a kid is a completely different, like my kids are all 6, 5, and 3, 4 now. I can't even envision that far working with them. Like right now it'd be fun just having the office until like 5 minutes in. I'm assuming that changes when they're adults, but how's it been working with your kids?
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of 3-year-old, I remember 3-year-old Jillian running around the office at a brokerage firm way before Keller Williams, picking up all the phones, pretending like she was answering the phones at all the cubicles. And so I might have gotten in trouble a couple of times for Jillian's behavior. And now she's a superstar agent. And so it's just been a great journey. My son, Brian, who's in Clearwater, Florida right now, when he was little, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't wait till he grows up. He's going to know how to run this team. I just knew that he was going to have so much to offer, and he does. And we are starting an expansion team in the Tampa Bay area, Clearwater, St. Pete Beach, we love, but St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Tampa, that whole Tampa Bay area. Brian and my husband and I are starting an expansion team there soon. Jillian is going to stay here. And then our son, Corey, is in Chicago, and he was involved with us when we started Keller Williams. In fact, he's at the top of the profit share downline here because we stood around the kitchen island. We had just had a very strong talking to from a RE/MAX broker when we told him we were going to start Keller Williams. He gave us a lot to think about, and we went home and stood around the kitchen island and thought as a family, do we really want to do this? Because we were thinking hard about what the RE/MAX broker said. And my son, Corey, said, yes, we need to do this. So he's at the top of the profit share, and he's done really well with that, even though he left real estate in 2008. Wow. But he's so impressed with the income that he's had through profit share and what it's meant for his family, that he is getting re-engaged in real estate. And
after all these years, huh?
Yeah, his wife became a Keller Williams agent a couple of years ago, and she is just killing it, having $1 million months. And so it's just amazing. But over time, to answer your very first question, I'll finally.
Yeah, we're going to get back to it.
Your first question, why seniors? Because after all these years, everything that I've done, I just kind of got burnt out, like tired of competing with so many other real estate agents, and tired of consumers not being able to tell the difference between my husband and I and what we've done throughout our career and the experience that we have, the knowledge that we have, and competing with people that are brand new. And no offense to the newbies, because we love you. We're just talking about our own personal struggles. and just got tired. Like, I'm just tired of competing. I did corporate relo and I liked the competition, but after a while, it just got to where, you know what? I need to create my own lane. I need to do something so completely different. Years ago, we had television commercials on ABC and they were cute. And we got a lot of comments, but we didn't make any money off of those. And we paid like $10,000 a month. I mean, stupid money on TV commercials for a while. Wow. So TV left a certain taste in my mouth. Yeah. And I also was too scared to be on camera back then, which
was that for your brokerage or for your individual team?
That was for our team. In fact, that was while we were still at Remax. We had 2 PT Cruisers with the Remax balloon on the hoods. We had the sold signs where the O was a Remax balloon. We had our moving truck decorated all Remax with the balloon. So our truck has been redecorated like 4 times. Yeah. And we still have that truck, today. And that's been actually one of the best things. We had a joke years ago that this is it. Each idea that I would come up with, I would talk my husband into and say, I know this is it. This is it. It's never worked out the way I thought. And the moving truck didn't work out the way I thought, but it's actually one of our favorite things because it's been so useful for us.
Do you just give them, I've seen this concept before. We obviously have some parked out here in Indy. I imagine the amount of realtors that actually offer a moving truck is a pretty small percentage. So it probably helps you stand out a little bit. You have kept it all these years. So I imagine you believe it was worth it. What is the process of actually letting your clients use that look like? Do they drive it and move themselves?
They do. We don't move them. Well, now we do for seniors, but we don't use our truck for that. So, and I think that's probably the biggest thing to talk about is what we do with seniors. But the free moving truck concept has been around and there's a real system on how to use it. You've got to be properly insured. There's kind of a trick to that. And we get a copy of the client's driver's license and a copy of their insurance. They should have a rider for the day that they're using it. And we'll loan it out for 1 day. They call my husband to reserve it because that just simplifies it. So they're not just talking to Jillian or I and complicating it. They just contact him and they get their own key. And today they pick it up at our house and they return it to our house. But at different times, it would be in the parking lots of the real estate offices that we've been at. And it's just an easy thing and people really appreciate it. And we let them use it also for charitable events or to move their kids to college and things like that. It's really easy if you know the systems. It's super easy to do. We have some funny stories, over time. But
what's the
overall,
funniest
it's
one?
Been great. The funniest one, well, I'll tell you 2 funny ones. We had one where people dropped it off at our first Keller Williams office and they kept the engine, they locked it up like they were instructed to do, but they left the engine running all weekend. No. We just thought that was crazy. And then for a while, we would let any Keller Williams client use it as kind of an extra for the agents. That was a disaster because there's some weird human behavior quirk where if they're not your client, they don't appreciate it. And there's a weird entitlement thing. And another agent's client used it and had a breakdown on the highway due to a tire. And so they just pulled it over and left it parked on a busy highway.
Oh my gosh, that doesn't sound funny at all.
But you just have to laugh at some of this stuff. It's just crazy. But I would tell you that it really doesn't have to be that hard to have a truck, but you better talk to people that have one and know how to do it. I've been watching newer agents all excited about free moving trucks, thinking it's a brand new, brilliant idea. We were doing it in the 90s. Yeah. And we already know.
It's like all those jokes my kids come telling me these jokes and then I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing at the joke. I'm laughing that I told that same joke 20 years ago, and my parents probably told the joke 40 years ago. Well, let's transition into your senior specialty. You have been coined as America's senior home coach, which is a pretty cool accolade. You talk about riches are in the niches, right? So like, obviously this is something that is good for your business, but you can, if you talk to Katherine for more than 5 minutes, you realize it's not about the money. There really truly is a passion here. So much so that you created 2 shows on PBS, one Ageless Enthusiasm and the other Empowering Seniors. So what I'd like to talk to you about is, how that got started, what's on the shows, and then specifically, especially with what's going on, like NAR is a buzzword right now in real estate. And I think not lawsuits aside, you have some pretty strong feelings on NAR's responsibility as it pertains to seniors. So let's jump into that.
Well, if all these things weren't going on at NAR right now and things were just normal, I would say, gosh, NAR is ignoring the fact that 39% of all homeowners or home sellers are 65 years of age or older. 39%.
That's a big number.
Say, oh yeah, this is the largest segment of the real estate market already today, and it's only going to get bigger. Look at the population trends. This is the largest segment. It's getting bigger. It is the fastest growing segment, and NAR is ignoring it. In fact, they're not even sleeping at the wheel. They are snoring. They are completely uninterested in seniors as far as any evidence that I can see. I won this Outstanding Service Award from NAR in the SRES category. And I went to the San Francisco conference in 2019 to get it because that was so cool. And there were maybe only 2 sessions on seniors. Almost everything else was about making videos and content creation, which is really important. But why only 2 breakouts on the largest segment that there is?
And you mentioned that NAR is missing it, and that's obviously it's actually probably good for you for your business.
It's good for me, and it's good for all of you that have a heart for seniors and want to find out more about this industry, because you're not even going to believe what the opportunities are. But it's not what you think. It's very complex, and it requires a completely different approach than any other niche or niche in real estate.
So, but my question is, what should NAR be doing that they're not doing that would help support you in the industry? Like, is that where you're coming from? Where like you say they're asleep at the wheel on this. Mm-hmm. Why does it matter for them to be informed and to inform the general public of realtors? What would that do?
Well, right now, I think we need to be more concerned at NAR about preserving single-family home ownership. And a lot of that inventory is owned by seniors, by the way. So if you're lacking inventory, that's where a lot of it's going to come from, is from seniors that are exiting the real estate market or downsizing. But right
selling
now,
so you're talking about being sold to big box investors, and
right?
Okay,
that investors are buying up single family homes, and then they're packaging them to sell them to BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. And their goal is to own 60% of all single family homes. And they're on a very, very fast trajectory where they could accomplish this in just a few years if we don't have legislation or something that stops this. And so if you've been following like the globalist movement and the World Economic Forum, where you will own nothing and be happy, that's the goal. That's the goal for big money who makes money on money to own all of the real estate so that we can't buy, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren can't buy and own our own homes, that we will rent these homes. And that's really what NAR is supposed to be protecting, not just us as real estate agents, but more importantly, everybody, protecting everybody and protecting home ownership, protecting the American dream. So I think that needs to be the number one focus. And the fact that we're not really talking about seniors within the realtor realm just creates lots of opportunity. And I mean, massive opportunity for the small percentage of realtors that love seniors and are heart-centered enough to not be solely focused on ROI and number of sales and volume, but be focused on this as a fulfilling part of your career.
What power does NAR have to regulate this? They would have to work with federal government, right? Raise awareness.
Yeah, that's way above my pay grade. So,
but I mean, if we're
know.
gonna raise the question, hey NAR, what are you doing to keep this from happening? You're supposed to be protecting not only the realtors but also the real estate market and us as homeowners. I don't even know where the first step would be. I imagine they would have to work with the government. Yeah,
public awareness, I think, for the biggest thing, and they should be figuring out what to do as a lobby. because I know there's something to be done, but that's above where I'm at. I just know it's really concerning. And the reason why I'm privy to this really is because of my extreme specialty working with seniors, because Wall Street realtors might not know that the money is in seniors, but Wall Street does. Wall Street knows it. And they are coming after the senior segment.
And they're probably seeing a vulnerable section where people are like needing to downsize or needing to sell and get mom or dad into assisted living or, like we said earlier, Isabel Guarino and a new segment of real residential assisted living. And so they're finding these people who are vulnerable, or worse, they're finding people who actually die and then it's left to the kids, and then they are trying to get out of the real estate deal quickly. And so they sell to the big box. I don't know. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know what the first step would be. I think awareness is good. I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, and part of that is because a lot of seniors, they want to leave the house to the kids. They have a lot of pressure from the way they grew up and the way their parents grew up. And the idea is that we want to leave money and our home and our stuff to our kids, and helping them think through that a little bit better is how this whole thing got started. I started monthly seminars 5 years ago. Immediately that caught the attention of our local PBS station. And I had the sales rep approach me and she said, would you come in and have a meeting with PBS? And I said I would, because I believe in saying yes and talking to people, because you never know where the next spark comes from. Sure. But then I remembered how much money we wasted on ABC. And I got to thinking about, I need to manage my time a little bit better, and I don't need to be spending a lot of money on television. And one thing I did remember from ABC too is that when I complained to our sales rep that we were spending all this money and it wasn't translating into good listing opportunities, he said, you got to be different. I said, how are we not different? We have a free moving truck. We sell this many homes a second, all these things, all these agent things that I thought made us different. Now today, all these years, now I know, oh gosh, now we're different. Now I get it. It took 20 years, over 20 years to learn that lesson. But I thought, I'm just going to call her boss and say, thank you. No, thank you. I'm not going to meet with you. And I did. And he said, well, wait a minute. I said, been there, done that. I'm just not interested. I normally would take me. I'm just not interested. He said, well, would you be interested in doing a television show for us? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yes, I'll come. Yeah. I'll come in and talk to you.
I'll give it a listen.
Yeah. Okay. So I went in and was talking to the sales rep and the guy I talked to on the phone, and in floats in this gentleman, and the energy in the room changed. All the attention went to him. I don't even really remember being introduced to him, but I'm thinking, I think this guy's in charge. So I turn around and look at him. And he starts telling me about what kind of show he wants me to create. And I'm just in complete, utter shock and silent. I have my hands under the table and I'm just looking down. And I mean, I am in shock. Yeah. And I said, what makes you think that I would be any good at this? And he pulled up my seminar flyer and he says, because I like your topics. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because the topics that I was doing came from training, came from other places. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I left very quietly. And then I called the sales rep on my way home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this is what we're going to do. And she says, cool. Wait a minute, you're interested? We thought you weren't interested. I'm like, heck no, yes, no, I'm interested. We're doing it. I went home and told my family, and my family was like, what? I'm like, oh, we're going to have a TV show, blah, blah, blah. They were so unhappy about it. And they're like, how much is this going to cost? I said, oh, it's not going to cost us anything. We're going to get sponsors. Then they were like, oh my gosh, because I have all these ideas, and they just didn't think it was going to work. And 5 years later, we're making a lot of money for the television station. They're very happy. And they came to me and said that the CEO wanted to use Katherine's financial model to fund other shows, like This Old House and some of the national PBS shows. And I said, okay, great. Wow. And they said, but what? I'm like, no, that's good. But what? I'm like, well, I don't understand why you would do that. What do you mean? I said, why would you do that? Why don't you just create another local show? And she said, like what? And I said, well, like a show for the go-to kids, the adult children, the people that everyone in the aging services field, that everyone in the senior industry wants to reach, the grown kids. I call them the go-to kids. And I said, let's make a show for the go-to kids. And she's like, oh my God, that's brilliant. What would you call it? And I said, well, I don't know, Ageless Enthusiasm, which I can't believe they stuck with that name, but they did. It's a name that I have on my Instagram because I was thinking about writing a book, and that was a name my brother came up with and researched it, and he thought that would be a good name. And I stuck it on my Instagram, and that now is a TV show.
Wow.
So, and I found a former realtor to host that show, and she is brilliant at it. And that show is designed for boomers and Gen X, and it addresses everything going on in their life. And then
so what does the show look like? If I watch a show, who is it? Like, what are they talking about? What is the dynamic of the show?
She's interviewing interesting, usually boomers and Gen X, about very specific topics. It could be on male pattern baldness. It could be on sex hormones. It could be on biohacking, really cool topics, but she's really getting to know this expert and asking them personal questions. And then we weave in downsizing and being like a sandwich generation with helping our adult kids, grandkids, but also helping to guide older parents. And so just that whole thing. And then my show, Empowering Seniors, was a monthly show to start with. It's now a weekly show. The first year was monthly. And I was asked to make it a weekly show. I didn't know what that meant. I worried about it all over Christmas break, thinking, well, how many could that be? It can't be 52 weeks. It can't be 50 weeks. I was really trying to figure out. Turns out 22 episodes is what they have in mind. So season 2 and 3 were 22 episodes, and now we're working on producing season 4. And I could be into season 5 or 6, but there's been times where I purposely kept it moving a little bit slower. But now I understand that that's probably my greatest point of difference, and it's creating a lot of national opportunity for me. And so now I'm a lot more focused on
I bet.
cranking out the shows.
Well, it's really cool what you've created there. I want to, we're winding down on the show here, and I want to make sure we get to one thing in particular, which is your passion around agents who want to get into this field. Because obviously this is a good niche, and it's a needed niche, and it's, our the senior adults who are impacted by this, they need our attention and love. What is the makeup of an agent that wants to get into this niche of real estate?
First of all, I'm not even kidding how complex it is. And you can't approach it like anything else that you do in the real estate world. To me, it's basically you become part of the senior industry. You become part of the aging services field. You almost vacate your position in the real estate industry in favor of working in the senior industry. And I was really surprised because I went to a class on business planning. I hadn't been to one in a while. And the lead generating activities that are proposed on here, everything that I'm doing, including television, is on this list. Here, I thought I was doing all these crazy creative things. They're on this list.
Yeah.
So it's still lead generation activities, but it's a much different way of lead generating. And so there's not that many. There's investors that are more into this than we are. There's one investor group where they teach investors. They have over 100,000 active investors that are being taught how to approach this market. Whereas at NAR, we have the SRES designation. It's not even like a separate department. It's just a 2-day CE class. The manual is well written, but it usually leaves you with not really knowing what to do unless you used to work in the senior industry or you throw yourself all the way in and figure it out on your own. Well, today, there's people like me that are out teaching and talking about this to help agents that really want to learn how to go about it, because it is completely different. It really stems from education. So the seminars and the workshops that we do, we are not selling. We are not selling anything. We're not talking about real estate very often. Sometimes the topic might be decluttering and downsizing, but a lot of times it's about home health and in-home care and picking out it's just that you'll never run out of topics. And that's what people need, because you don't turn 65 and the Medicare fairy sprinkles fairy dust on you and you know exactly what to do the rest of your life. And people do not know what to do. And so if we come into this industry to help educate and bring experts to them, that's how we get their attention, build relationships with them. They become our SOI, our sphere of influence. And that is how you build relationships. And it's no longer about the transaction. It's about the transition. It's about helping the human being. The real estate part of it is, if you're lucky, and that's at the very end. And what I tell seniors every single day is the last thing you need is a real estate agent. And I'm very serious about that, because my husband, my daughter, and I, we want the listings. However, we can't come at it from that approach. If we get 10% of our attendees doing business with us, that's awesome. But we're helping 100% of the people out there. And the result, hopefully, is that we do some listing business as well.
Well, I like what you said about someone getting in and they have to immerse themselves in it and become a part of that community. And we had Daniel Hyder on a couple of weeks ago, who he's very recognizable in DC, and he talks about the level of education that his buyers and sellers have, and they're all in politics and lobbyists, and they need a special care where you're like immersing yourselves in their world, and real estate is kind of a subset of it, because they're trying to get connected. They're trying to understand the DC metrics and where to get connected for just family stuff. And I think that this is very similar in that aspect, where if you become a part of the community of seniors who are either downsizing or getting into assisted living or anything of that sort, you're coaching families, you're connecting them with people they need to know. Let's say there's memory care involved. You need to know the best facilities and the people who are going to take care. And you're kind of at the center of that, to where, you're going to sell the home, but you're going to be doing so much more than that. And you'll probably get your hands in some other parts of the business that you can help improve. We're out of, go ahead.
Well, so there's other streams of income involved here too. If you're interested, you can be involved in senior move management, which is a necessary component, because the personal property is the most overwhelming part of the entire transition. And there's also the placement industry, which is an industry that helps seniors or their families decide where they might go, which could be independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care, also rehab. And this is not a language that we speak. They're just like we have all these acronyms in real estate. This is about leaving some of that behind and going into a different industry that you're not part of right now, probably, unless you have been in that industry, and learning to speak their language and learning that world. It is complete immersion. It's embedding into that industry and not coming at them with our real estate card, because that is going to get the door slammed in your face. It's a very small industry. They all know each other. In-home care, home health, hospice, senior living, all those people know each other. And what we're trying to do is move in there and be part of their team. And you can't, I'm telling you can't come at it just like a real estate agent.
Well, I love your passion for this industry. I love your passion for seniors, Katherine. Thanks for sharing all that you've learned, and we hope to see you again. We'll probably catch you on PBS at some point on the national programming. But if we want to find you on Instagram, it's Ageless Enthusiasm, and then you do a lot on Facebook as well. Thanks for being on the show.
I do a daily mastermind called the Senior Call.
The Senior Call. So that's on
seniorcall.com on Zoom. Yep.
All right. That's where we find you.
All right.
All right. Well, this has been the Real Producers Podcast. Again, if you are looking to get involved, make sure you look online at realproducersmag.com. And if there's not a franchise in your area, you could be that person to bring it to your area. So we'll see you soon.